We're here.
We're here.
I forgot to take down the overlay.
We're live on the Diamond Sports Betting Podcast. That's how you know we're live. It's great to be here. Thanks for watching.
Yes, it is.
Dave, it's great to be back. I was out in LA last week. I missed the Thursday episode, but you held it down for us. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I held it down by not doing a Thursday show because I was frankly too busy doing all the other tournament stuff. But yeah, it was sad not to have you here, but we did all right holding down the tournament without you. I'm sure you had a good time in sunny Los Angeles watching plenty of tournament stuff live.
Listen, the madness comes for us all. It's not a surprise that when the madness gets going on Thursday, you never know how it's going to affect your day-to-day plans. But no, LA was beautiful. Good time. It was a work trip for us. And the chaos of the tournament ensued. I'm excited. We've got some great games to look forward to in the Sweet 16 that we'll start to preview on today's episode in just a little bit. What else is coming today? We're going to do King of the Court. As always, that $2 million jackpot, something we're trying to chase down successfully for the second week in a row. We've got the Texas Children's Houston Open on the PGA Tour. We're going to talk a little baseball today with the MLB season back. We'll do some win totals and take a look at what the Dimers model sees for the upcoming season. But first, as always, let's start with some things that you should have bet last week.
Should have bet that.
Matt Fitzpatrick took it home on the PGA Tour, and he did have an edge throughout the tournament last week. You got the screenshot for us right there.
Yeah, from the article, we talked about him on the show as well. Pretty solid edge for him at plus 1,600. Fair odds just shy of 1,300. He was hanging around all weekend long, sealed the deal by the end, and cashed out as the winner. We also had half of our top 20 boost cash. Akshay Bhatia was a pre-tournament withdrawal, so we just voided a leg and got Bridgman for a top 20, probably cashing in at plus money. I don't have Bet365, so I don't know what the final odds on that were. But he was plus money for a top 20 finish. I would imagine with a boost at including ties, he was still around even money or so. Greg, you called Jalen Duren King of the Court. Got a little lucky with Cade Cunningham. Unfortunately, Cade Cunningham getting injured, but you specifically mentioned the big man performances against the Wizards lately, and it came through. One over LaMelo Ball for the win.
So on brand for the way my life works that we win something, we shout it out like that with $1,000 bonus bet, and then my favorite team loses its best player for the remainder of the regular season. But hey, them's the breaks. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and a little bit of mix of both with Jalen Duren last week. I wasn't the only one who had some NBA success, though. The Friday NBA article basically swept.
Yeah, this thing was fun. Like I've said, this is pretty much my favorite series of article to write right now, trying to highlight, either one individual spot from each game on the slate when it's a smaller slate. If it's a bigger slate, trying to isolate a few good spots. Pretty much swept this one with something in every game. Jaylen Brown was projected for 30 plus. He was like plus 224. Danish Jenkins popped with an interesting, void to fill in Philly, and he had his second best game, I believe, to date. At that point, just had 30 last night. Klingen got his double-double, which I thought was interesting because he was minus 101 for a double-double, minus 115 if you took him for 10 points and 10 rebounds, with the double-double actually being a better play because you get, unlikely that he's going to get 10 assists, but you actually get a second out with that as well. Cat and Robinson hit plus money boards. Jamal Murray was the top scorer in Nuggets, only 1 point projected behind Jokic. He was plus 300 for that. So there's a lot of good stuff in that article as well. And then some of our early college basketball tournament success, not crushing every single bet that we put out there, but we've had some pretty standout days. Called the TCU upset, the first bet of the entire tournament. Also the only underdog we had on that entire day, which was really nice. Day 3 spreads went 4 of 6. Here's a couple that I played in a little two-legger, the top 2 probabilities of the day, if I recall correctly. And props, we've had some pretty good success. I'll save this for champ of the week, but we've got a guy who's killing it in the props over the weekend, and we'll shout him out a little bit later in a dedicated segment.
Hey, love it. Love to hear it. Yeah, it's fun. At this point in the year in college basketball, there's so many more prop markets than there are throughout the regular season, especially with the NCAA tournament games. So I have been enjoying using the Dimers player projections in college hoops a little bit more than we're able to as someone who follows the sport night to night in the regular season. So take advantage. If you're like me, you will love it. Make sure you get Dimers Pro. We got a 3-day free trial for you only on the app right now. And we're still doing promo code podcast as well, Dave. Are we shouting that out too today?
Yeah, you can do both, but I would recommend doing the app because you'll get the 3-day free trial, and then you can decide if it's for you or not. As much as I would like to plug my own personal podcast promo code, you should try before you buy in any situation you get. So please do, and hopefully you'll get hooked. I've been popping in on the app, putting a little how-to videos over the first few days of the tournament. Should be a fun thing to incorporate as baseball season gets started, as well as we try to just present as many possible ways to show everyone how to use the tools as we possibly can.
Amen to that. All right, let's get into the rest of the episode. We start in the NBA, where it's King of the Court night. Again, $2 million prize pool for tonight and for the rest of the season. We love this promotion, DraftKings King of the Court. This is how it works. If you bet $5 on any player prop, market, points, threes, assists, rebounds, whatever you want, just use the King of the Court token. And if that player ends up leading the night, all players in the NBA in points plus rebounds plus assists, you will split that $2 million bonus bet pool with everybody else who picked the same player that you did. As we mentioned, we are off a 1-week winning streak here from my shout with Jalen Duren on last week's show. Let's see if we can make it repeat King of the Court winners. But as always, Dave's going to survey the landscape and give us more than just one pick for King of the Court. These are a bunch of players that may be worth looking at for player props tonight. Where do you want to start?
It was a great call with Durham, by the way. He was still top 5 projection on in our projections for the whole night. Not uncommon to see a player crack the top 5 or 2 players rather from the same team crack the top 5 against a Wizards, against the Kings, against a Jazz. But if not for Cade Cunningham getting injured in the game, he would have been the top projected player of that game for sure, and featured as a top, as the 3rd overall guy. So still a great shout out by you, Greg. Even though the luck had to break our way. 3 straight winners versus the Wizards the past 3 weeks, but we do not have Washington tonight, so that won't be a target. We don't have the Jazz either. We do have the basement dwelling Kings, so we'll certainly highlight a matchup in that one. Although with that particular matchup, it might be trying to pick the right guy in that game, but we're going to go with the projections and follow that. So only a handful of these left, just a 4-game slate tonight. So let's see what we got here. And unsurprisingly, Nikola Jokic is the top projected guy, 52.3 PRA by an insane margin here, over 14 over Donovan Mitchell, even higher of a gap than we saw last week. It was a bigger slate last week with more favorable matchups on tap, but this is a massive gap for him. Underwhelming game last week when he was leading the slate, 29 PRA. Was a blowout. He only played 25 minutes. The Suns should be more competitive in this game than the 76ers were last week. They are trying to cling to getting out of the play-in. I think they're 3.5 games back, so they need every single thing they can get to get out of there. So they should be pretty competitive. The defense has not been bad in Phoenix either. Top tier versus centers over the last 15 games in primary categories here. Only given up 150 plus PRA game in their last 10. Granted, not a lot of Jokic model players that any team is playing against any given night, but not giving up King of the Court worthy performances even to the superstars lately. Obviously, Jokic is elite in those all-around production, first in the league in rebounds and assists. They might just be harder to come by tonight. However, he is, the top guy on only a 4-game slate. I'm sure he will be the most popular pick, even more so maybe than a Luka Doncic on a 6, 7, 8-game slate. So, tail him with, I guess, caution if you're looking for a big bonus, but his projection says he's going to lead the way. Donovan Mitchell in Cavs versus Magic. This is kind of a fun one for a couple little I guess, unique standout things, but he's got the second highest projection here behind Jokic. I feel like narratively, he's kind of having a quiet season, but not at all on paper. He's having his second best assists and points per game numbers, multiple 50-plus PRA games earlier this season off the backs of 40-plus point performances. Just hasn't really done that lately. So he hasn't had the explosive games, I suppose. Solid history versus the Magic this year, which I think is really interesting. 2 50-plus PRA games versus them earlier this season, including a 36-5-9 matchup. Both of those games were before James Harden joined the Cavs, though, so one thing to consider. But the model has him this high up against a pretty solid Magic defense, so certainly some upside tonight for Donovan Mitchell. And then Jalen Brunson, third here. Knicks versus Pelicans, projected for 36.7 PRA. Scoring's down a bit this month compared to how he has been all year, but it's working for the Knicks. They're 7-3 over their last 10, closing in on the Celtics for the 2 seed. So that might not change if, what isn't broke doesn't need fixing. He's close to a lot of big games lately, but only one 30-point game this month, as opposed to, stretches where he's gone 3 in a row, 35 plus points in significant 2-week stretches. Hasn't had a 40-plus point game since before the All-Star break. Tough peripheral matchup here. The Pelicans are pretty good against guards, against rebounds and assists. So his complementary stats might be harder to come by, which if he doesn't score 40, 45 points is going to, impact him hitting king of the court. But the model likes him here, signals he's due for a breakout performance. The Pelicans are still not a good team, just better than some of the absolute worst. Touching on the long shots real quick. LaMelo Ball, we looked at him a couple of weeks ago as well. He's popped in here several times. Gets the Kings matchup that we know is so good. Projected 36.5 PRA, so still pretty solid here. 5th overall on the night. He nearly won last week, one shy of Jalen Duren. Had 36-5 against Sacramento recently. He's gone off in these soft matchups, 52 PRA versus the Wizards last month. Really good projections from his counting stats here. 8.1 assists is the 3rd highest on the slate. 4.0 threes is the highest on the slate. Kings rank bottom 5 versus guards. Points, assists, 3-point defense. He's averaging 4+ threes per game in March. Probably going to need that 50 PRA, ceiling or floor rather to win the king of the court. But everything is there. The matchup lines up. Sometimes it's difficult. Is it going to be Khan? Is it going to be Brandon Miller? Is it going to be LaMelo Ball? Are they all going to kind of put in 40 PRA performances? Probably the trickiest part of this. But, the matchup, everything is in his favor tonight. Probably going to be more popular than most guys that are ranked 5th, given the small slate in the Kings matchup. But definitely going to return more than $25 in bonus bets as opposed to chasing top Nikola Jokic. And then I got to call out my long shot here. Trey Murphy against the Knicks, projected for 34.5 PRA, rounds out our top 10 on the night. He's got a career best season right now, multiple 40-point games throughout the year, popping at different times, really consistent all-around production with his rebounds and assists. Knicks are struggling defensively over their last 15 against guards, ranking 27th in points, 26th in rebounds, and 29th in assists. He won king of the court earlier this season with the 50 PRA outing versus the Lakers. Why not again? We've seen some strange guys pop multiple times. Banchero, back-to-back games, not the most expected result, So who knows? Why not Trey Murphy twice in 1 year? If you want a long shot with the upside, I feel like it's Trey Murphy.
Is there a specific category for Murphy that you would like most individually if you're doing points, rebounds, or assists? The Knicks have been getting torched everywhere, it feels like, by this position, but what would you play tonight?
Let me check our projections real quick because it would be relevant to what he, how he stacks up. I would lean assists or points. Trey Murphy, he's not even top on his team in assists. I would go points, 24.7 points. Pretty high projection for not just the game, but the whole night. So I think I would go after that if that was the singular prop.
I like that. All right, cool. I like Spida tonight too. You laid the case out very nicely for Donovan Mitchell, but kind of his more than any other great player in the league. I feel like his big nights feel random to me. It's like I don't know. He's always capable of just going completely nuclear and winning King of the Court, and then he's always I don't know. Sometimes they just coast. They're on a pretty great team, and you don't always need it from him. But like you said, he had a huge one against the Magic before. I feel like I don't know. The ceiling is probably as high as anybody not named Nikola Jokic tonight. That's why our projection has him up there in the 2 spot. So Mitchell and Murphy, both good shouts for me. You wanted to shout out one more honorable mention tonight as well, Desmond Bane.
Yeah, he's too far down for me to really put him in here. We've seen guys outside the top 10 don't really make it just that high, even if the matchup is right. It does signal they have a really high hill to climb. But Paolo Banchero's right alongside Brunson tonight, almost identical projection. But the Cavs have been top 5 defensively versus forwards over their last 15 games. Guards, bottom 5 in every category, including 3-point shooting. Bane dropped 35, 6, and 6 versus the Cavs a couple of weeks ago. Nothing special in the first 2 games against them back in January. He's only projected for 29.8 PRA, so he's even outside the 30 PRA projection. But even if he doesn't win the King of the Court, it just wouldn't surprise me if Desmond Bane pops for the big game rather than Paolo Banchero, who I'm sure is going to draw a pretty good amount of attention tonight, especially after winning 2 weeks in a row within the past month.
Love it. All right, there we have it. Good survey for King of the Court. Appreciate you as always, Dave. Let's go 2 for 2 on a little winning streak there. Let's move to golf next. We've got the Texas Children's Houston Open this week on the PGA Tour. But let's look back at the Valspar first. We mentioned it at the top of the show. Matt Fitzpatrick showed value all weekend long, and we called him out with an edge on socials entering the final round. He was 3 back, almost 4-1 odds-wise. And that's both a pre-tourney and a live snipe by the model. Round of applause, Divers model. What else caught your eye last week?
Second time in a few weeks that we caught some live value. It's nice to have the same guy that you had pre-tournament so that, if you missed out, you could jump on the same train. But Bridgman cashed the solo top 20, which was plus money. Scuffley finished T4, one of our other values to win, called him out as a great top 10 value. Long shot, 125-1, Billy Horschel. An absolute masterclass in falling apart. He was hanging around the top for about a round and a half. I think he finished tied for 68th or something, but he was 125-1 and only 0.5%. So he was always a big long shot. But Gator Billy, as they call him, was hanging around for a little bit. And I've got at least one guy in that general range on my radar this week. But we'll take a quick look at the course and overall tournament preview for this event. And then just look at the value. I will have to shout out that Scotty Scheffler withdrew from this about 2 hours ago or so. So our projections are in the process of updating. They may not be by the time I pull up the screenshot or the screen share. They will be probably by the end of the night, certainly by the time the tournament starts. But we're still going to look at the couple of guys who popped. Some of the odds haven't changed too badly. So still got some pretty much similar value to look at. But overall, we wrapped up the Florida swing of events, four events in a row. Now we go to Texas for 2 before the Masters, which is going to be very fun for us. We'll have some special content, I think, for that as well. We're going to Memorial Park Golf Course. This is a very long par 70. It's 7,475 yards, but it's the longest par 70 on tour. Strongly favors power off the tee, wide fairways, short rough. Drivers are used heavily and often. Distance matters more than accuracy here until you get to the cleanup game where you're going to want to be able to place the ball in the right spots on the green, because this course has few bunkers and water hazards, not your traditional type of hazard stuff, and more dangerous runoffs. The greens are multi-tiered. If you don't land in a good spot on them, putting on them can be very difficult. But if you have good, guys with good putting statistics are basically a bonus here. Like I said, greens are large but multi-dimensional, so it gets really tricky in there. And guys who can convert birdies from approach play are probably going to have the best chance to win this. Only 3 par 5s, so it's very heavily weighted towards par 4 scoring. We have a couple guys who see an edge in that. And like I said, overall, powerful hitters get an advantage here. Bombers, long ball strikers, whatever you want to call them, guys with really good driving distance are going to find themselves with the shorter holes, of course, and then cleaning up with the irons. No real major notable storylines, I feel like, for this one. You got Minwoo Lee's the reigning champ. He shortened up to only about 10-1 from 18-1 after the Scotty Scheffler withdrawal. So, something to monitor there. I don't know if he's going back-to-back. No one's gone back-to-back since Vijay Singh in 2005, 2006. But then, like I said, we have the Masters in 2 weeks and the RBC Heritage Signature event after that. So we got a pretty important stretch here before the Zurich Classic, which is a team event that we won't have predictions for in the middle of April for that 1 week. So let's try and start off this little run here with some good plays and look at the value from the Dimers model. I'll pull up the predictions. And again, like I said, Scotty Scheffler has withdrawn from this. It has not updated yet. And we have about 30% win probability to distribute amongst this field. So somebody is getting a boost. It's probably going to filter out pretty evenly, I think, disperse itself down kind of relative to these guys already. But someone's going to get I'm sure, at least a couple percentage points of an increase here. For the best value, right off the top, ignoring the Scotty Scheffler stuff, obviously, Ricky Fowler. We also are going to get him with a boost at Bet365. I'll share that later. But 4.1% to win pre-Scotty. And that would be fair at plus 2340. So a pretty sizable edge here. I saw him around 30-1 in some books. Our boost gets him to 33-1 at Bet365. So if you don't have his best odds, you can look for that boost and try and capitalize. He's got 3 top 20s to start the year. Personal best this season, T9 at Arnold Palmer. Only one finish outside the top 30. Ranks 45th or better in every major category that applies here. He's great in scoring average, like I said, particularly on par 4s, of which there are 10 on this course, which gives him a pretty sizable advantage. His odds barely moved with the Scheffler news, so that signals a good opportunity for us as well, as we're not taking much of a hit by not getting him before that. He's only had 1 start here since this course was redesigned in 2019, but he's in much better form now compared to last year when he finished T52. He gets an edge all the way through top 20, top 10, top 5, and outright win. Looks like a pretty solid ladder play on Ricky Fowler. Greg, you love this guy. Dimers model loves this guy. Hopefully he'll come through for us this week. Harry Hall is down to about 40-1 from 47-1 after the Scotty withdrawal, but 3.1% to win is pretty solid. Still fair at 31-25, so a nice edge. He's managed a pair of top 10s this year, 3 missed cuts, and then a pair of top 25s right in between. He's a very average driver, pretty poor on approach, neither of which jumps off the page as must-bet metrics for this tournament. But he's a really good putter, ranks top 20. Despite his 3 missed cuts, he's great in scoring, and it's really interesting. I think I called this out at a previous tournament, but he ranks 2nd in scoring in round 3, 11th in round 4, but 98th and 100th in the first 2 rounds. So if he makes the weekend, he does pretty well. The books have him at minus 275 to make the cut. That's a pretty good sign for him playing the weekend and playing well. He's improved here in 3 straight appearances, T39, T28, and T18 last year. And if we look at his, ladder value, we'll call it top 20, top 10, and top 5 as well. So Harry Hall may be due for another one of his top 10 performances. And I do love the trend of a guy improving at a course in successive years. That signals a pretty good spot for me. And T18, not a whole lot of room to improve. Top 10, top 5, and a win could be in play for our friend from England this week.
One of these weeks, Dave, it's going to happen. Harry the Hatman Hall is going to come through for us. And why not this week? Although I am curious. I want to see that updated with Scotty pulled out. I want to see what probability we see my boy Harry jump up to.
Yeah, I might have to do a little article on that alone just to highlight which guys got the biggest jump, because that might signal a pretty good advantage to us as well when we see what the updated probabilities look like. Some other guys to watch. These their value here may change after the Scotty stuff. These are usually guys that have no major value in the outright market, but for reasons one way or the other, you should be checking them out this week at least. Steven Yeager seemed pretty much the best and worst from him this year. He's pretty far down here in terms of win probability, sub 1%, only 0.4% here. But he's flashed a T5 this year, T7 just last week. He's got really good power, he's poor on approach, but he's like a solid scrambler and good putter. Ranks 4th in birdie or better on par 3s, which is pretty solid. It's a shorter par 3 or a lower par 3 distribution than some of the other courses, but it gives him a little bit of an out to climb the leaderboard. And what I do like particularly is his run at this event where he's finished T9, a win, and then T11 in the past 3 years. Brooks Koepka, he's running pretty hot right now on a run of T9, T13, and T18 since started with a T56 and a cut this year. Did really well in Florida, and now is going to Texas to hopefully keep that rolling. Ranks 1st on tour in approach, which is huge here. He's an okay driver and a bad putter for the most part. He had some pretty nice birdies last week. Mixed bag of results, but he's got good form coming into this one. And he was an advisor on the redesign for this course in 2019. So I just think that's super interesting. I think he's only about 1.5% to win here at plus 2,900. So no value to speak of, but a decent probability, I believe, for a top 20, over 30%. Just not going to get any value on it. And then one more guy to call out, Shane Lowry, 2.3%, 55 to 1 here. Last I checked, the odds are down to about 4,000 plus 4,400 after the Scheffler news. So make sure you're not getting cheapened too much on it. I'm curious what our updated probability will be for him. But he previously had an edge here for the ladder, top 20, top 10. And it doesn't show the flame on top 5, but this is about 9%. So that's a solid edge there as well. Pretty well-rounded game. Started off really, really hot this season. Had a T2 at the Cognizant. Just came up just shy with his collapse on the final couple holes, but missed the cut in the last 2 events. So bit of a toss-up which version of Shane Lowry you're going to get this week. But at least at the pre-Scotty probabilities, pretty good odds there. Real quick, the boosts. As mentioned, we have Ricky Fowler with a little boost to win. Where is he? Maybe I didn't grab that screenshot. One sec, guys. Pull this bad boy up. Because we also have a top 20 boost as well. So here, I'll pull that one up real quick. Top 20, Ricky Fowler, Chris Gotterup, both pretty good projections from the model. 47.5% for Ricky Fowler, 37.4% for Chris Gotterup, who is super hot this year. 2 wins. Ricky Fowler, like I said, 4 top 20s this year. Pretty solid boost from Bet365. Both of these guys land in the top 15 overall. Ricky, obviously, 2nd overall probability. Both of them get an edge on a standalone top 20. And then, as I mentioned, we also have the boost on Ricky just to get a win over at Bet365 as well, from plus 3,000 to 33 to 1. Hopefully, we don't get too much of an odds chop like we did last week on Bridgman. But I think that was after Batia withdrew. It's like 6 or 7 guys withdrew last week, which messed up some of the odds, including the one on our boost. But anytime we get a little extra on a top 5 probability for the model, pretty good sign.
Yeah, it's a great development. Anytime. It's a great development. And then reminder, we say this every single week that we do the golf segment, but there's so many different markets with PGA Tour betting that you can use the model's data for every single week. And you don't just have to bet outright to win. You can bet top 30 finishes, top 40 finishes. You can do make or miss the cut parlays. There's 3 balls, regional groups. I just love golf betting because you can really pick and choose wherever you think you've identified an edge in. And that's where the model comes in handy, because even the head-to-head matchups tool has been so profitable if you know how to use it. And you can just plug golfers' names in every single week and see the likelihood, probability-wise, that they win an individual round versus win the entire 4-round tournament head-to-head with a different player in the field. And you can do it with every player in the field. That's the best part of it. So use the model's insights however you wish. But if you spend the time, to me, it really is one of those sports where you can find what you're looking for if you know how to use the model. Do you have any thoughts to add to that?
Yeah, I just agree. You just made me think to pull this up real quick because I forgot there's so many values on top 20s. Obviously, these are going to change, but you see a bunch of guys like this, the model recommends straight bets, of course, but I play make miscut parlays, take some of these guys for a top 30, top 40, maybe cheese it down a little bit. You have fun with it. You have all weekend to watch your plays play out, and the live nature of both the updating features on the tool and as far as just betting the tournament throughout the course of the weekend gives you more than one opportunity to profit. I love betting on golf.
Yep.
It's my favorite.
I've loved it more since we started the show, but now I know there's so many different ways to actually find the value. All right, cool. Thank you, as always, for the prep work that goes into that. We appreciate it. We're going to pivot next to a Sweet 16 edition of the College Corner.
College Corner.
All right, the way I want to run this week, if we do multiple episodes, I want to do a Thursday night preview and then a Friday night preview. There are 4 games on each day left in this tournament. That'll get us through to the Elite 8 and onward. And then to our loyal listeners, you'll be on your own by then. By the time we get to the Elite 8, just use the model's insights, best bets page, predictions page, player projections, all of it. All that information will be there if you have Dimers Pro. But we can just screen share our way through this if that's cool with you, Dave. Do you want to pull up Thursday's predictions? For me, you're already ahead of me. This is why I love you. Dave, what jumps out to you looking at these 4 games? Is there anything that you noticed right away at a glance?
Especially with the way the tournament's gone, one of them looks like a close game. Illinois Houston 3.5 isn't bad, but only a 38% money line probability for Illinois. But almost a coin flip in Iowa, Nebraska, which I think is particularly interesting because we had some pretty good pre-tournament value on Nebraska to reach, I believe, the Elite 8. I would have to double check the article, but they were plus money with, I think, over a 50% probability. That was a fun one to point out. But yeah, I don't know. It's the chalk has been real for sure in this tournament.
Yeah, we called it out on the show a couple of weeks ago that Nebraska had a higher likelihood than Vanderbilt to make it to this round, the Sweet 16. And now they're in this round looking at a team they're favored against instead of that 1 seed Florida that went down to Iowa, and the only real shocking upset of the tournament up to this point. I was going to point out that really the best teams in the tournament are here for the most part. Thursday night's games, though, are where you find some of the larger spread discrepancies. Arizona, a big favorite against Arkansas. Purdue, a big favorite against Texas. Really, Iowa, Texas, and Arkansas are sort of the 3 quote-unquote teams that were unexpected to be here. They're the only 3 teams that rank outside the top 16 per Ken Pomeroy that are still playing once you get to this point in the tournament, which is an incredibly low number, but speaks to the chalky nature of this transfer portal era that we are in. The other thing I would point out, and longtime listeners know this about me personally, I come from Big Ten country. There's 6 Big Ten teams left in this 16-team field. There are 4 Big Ten teams playing on Thursday night. And as we get into what the model predicts here, I might be a happy camper watching this go through. So let's jump into that Purdue-Texas game first. And I will say this is one of the stronger model projections in terms of value and best bets coming into this weekend. We project an 8-point victory by Purdue. The spread opened at 7.5. It has dropped down to 6.5. Looks like early money is coming in on Texas, which makes this a very high probability, high edge outcome, according to the model of Purdue to cover 6.5 points. I will say this is about as fortunate of a matchup as Purdue could get at this phase of the tournament. Texas is outside the top 80 in adjusted defensive efficiency. Just point blank, they are a defense that is nowhere near Sweet 16 caliber, and yet somehow finds themselves in the Sweet 16 against the number one offense in the country and the number one pick and roll tandem in the country of Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith. Texas is a really poor ball screen defense. It's the number one thing they can't guard. It just is a dream matchup for a Purdue team that spams ball screen actions until you prove you can stop it. I think the one way I could envision Texas hanging in this game is if they find success on the offensive end themselves. And it is noteworthy to me with a 150 projected points scored number. There's a probability, I guess, side of this that we expect this to go over. Now, there is no edge according to the model, so I won't be betting that total, but it kind of speaks to my idea that we know Purdue is going to score in this game. The question will simply be, can Texas keep up with their diet of mid-range, isolation-based shots? I don't think they can. This is one of my personal stronger plays of the tournament. Matt Painter has rolled 2 covers against the spread through 2 rounds. This is the team that won the Big Ten tournament. They're playing their best basketball. Reminder, preseason number 1 team in the country, finally playing like it, and gets the worst team left in the tournament in this region. I'd be surprised if Purdue doesn't end up creating some separation late in this game, and I'll be with the model on Purdue -6.5 here.
Yeah, good probability, high edge, number moving in favor of the Purdue spread side of things. Pretty good sign.
Bunch of reasons to love it. All right, let's jump into game 2 of these 4 games, and it is Nebraska and Iowa. From a personal standpoint, this is the hardest game for me to make sense of this weekend. And it's the 3rd time these teams are meeting this year. They split the first 2 matchups. Nebraska is definitively the better team. And it's not a surprise to see them at least projected to win this game by the Dimers model. However, one thing I can't deny, I don't think anybody can deny at this point, first-year Iowa head coach Ben McCollum looks like he's college basketball's Kurt Signetti right now. And his game plan against Florida in the round of 32 was phenomenal. He just diced up the defending national champions with a roster full of mid-major players that, quite frankly, should be wearing Drake uniforms still. None of them would be at Iowa or at any high major school if he hadn't taken this job. And it's hard to ignore what he's done. He has a history, even before he got to Division I coaching, of just running through postseason tournaments like they're the Ben McCollum Invitational. And the reality is, especially in college basketball, it is different between preparing for, 2-3 nights rest for a regular season game, one of 32 games on the schedule, and preparing with 5 nights rest for an NCAA tournament game where your season is on the line. It's a different skill set for coaches, and I fully believe that Ben McCollum is at his best in moments like this. So, for me, again, historically, the way I'm wired, if you're giving me essentially a pick 'em or a 1-point spread, 1.5 is where it's currently at, with a team I think is definitively better, I have a hard time not just betting it. Like, just give me Nebraska money line and I'll lay the juice here. But I have so much respect for the game plan that Ben McCollum just showed against Florida. I just can't touch this. And I think the model does show Iowa +1.5 as a best bet. Again, for me, the only thing I'd point out interpreting the model's data here, when it projects a Nebraska win by 1 and then gives you Iowa +1.5 as a best bet, maybe we go the Dave route here and go for the middle and hope for
the 1-point middle.
Right. It's not exactly the most lucrative game to bet on the card, I would say.
No, almost like a self-hedge from the model. Obviously not actually what's happening here, but having Nebraska get to the Elite 8 with plus money and over 50% pre-tournament, and now here giving the edge to Iowa on the +1.5. Maybe we get a 1-point win and we're happy in both regards.
Yeah, would be beautiful if it worked out just that way. But one more verbal note as you flip to the next game too. Nebraska games are all 3-point variants. So this game will be won by the team that gets hot from 3. They force you to make shots from outside. And Iowa's got guys to do it. They've also could go cold, and Nebraska runs away with it. All right, this game is probably, from an excitement level, it's up there this weekend. Probably the second most exciting game of this Sweet 16 round. Arizona looks often like the best team in the country. They have, I think, the hardest draw remaining of any of the 1 seeds in this tournament. And Arkansas has a generational talent at point guard. This is a John Calipari team that is built like the famous John Calipari teams you think of. Darius Acuff is probably right in line with John Wall and Derrick Rose in terms of just singular point guard stars that Cal has coached. He's going to be a longtime NBA All-Star, and he's playing his best basketball. And you can expect him at his best in this game, even against an Arizona defense that is elite, that has multiple backcourt perimeter defenders that are tough to throw at him, that won't wear down in this game. It's one of those spots for me where on paper, analytically, the matchup favors Arizona almost across the board. But there's a couple voices in my head here of just Darius Acuff's the best player in this game. When you have sort of those guards, are going to be NBA superstars. We've seen them sort of power a team past the point where analytics make sense. And I would throw this number out from my own personal research. This is only the 13th time that John Calipari has been a pregame underdog in the postseason as a head coach, going back to when he took the Kentucky job all the way back in 2008. I mean, that's how many years is that? 18 years? He's been an underdog 13 total times, Dave, in 18 years. And in those 12 games leading up to this one, his teams are 11-0-1 against the spread when he's an underdog in postseason games. They've covered or pushed in every one of them. He's never lost against the spread in 18 years as an underdog. So for me, you see the model's data in front of us here. Arizona minus 8.5 is a 55% probability. It's not the biggest edge play that you will find on the best bets page. However, it's a slight one. If you are someone that just is a Dimers Pro subscriber and you're profitable over time, if you play what the model tells you to play, I think you add this to your card and you roll with it. From my personal standpoint, it's hard to overcome that John Calipari number where this is just one of those spots, his motivational fuel with his talent, NBA players in college uniforms really gets them up for games like this. But for me, I see both outcomes as a possibility. Either Arkansas is going to be in this, Darius Acuff's going to be phenomenal, or it's not going to be enough. And that matchup that does favor Arizona is going to lead to an Arizona blowout. Do we, I don't think we have any prop bets pulling for this. Do you want to click that and just see if it's pulling anything yet?
Yeah, nothing here. I can check the projections if there's something you want to see.
There may not be anything just yet.
Yeah, actually, I would have to change the date and stuff in here. There might not be.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So you've got Acuff. I'll call this out right now. Acuff projected 25.5 points. He's plus money for 25 plus points at basically any book you can find. So even with the model projecting Arizona to cover here, my game script here is 100%. You're going to see a generational talent trying to score 40 points and keep his team in a game. Whether he's successful or not probably tells you the difference in Arkansas covering or not. They're going to need 30 plus points from him. But just as a starting point, I believe it's even money for 25 plus points for Darius Acuff, projected 25.5. That'll be on my card.
That's I think that's a good way to kind of highlight how you can, if you're afraid of that minus 8.5 that the model supports because of what is not a small sample size analysis of John Calipari whatsoever. 20 years almost that's amazing. But now you can kind of get a little bit of that side of success, and obviously for what you would expect would be very high production from their best player, superstar in the making, without having to fade Cal, I guess.
Yep. And that honestly, Dave, a good way of how I use the model too. Like people know this. I run all of my personal handicaps against what the model shows. And my personal handicap in this game was Arkansas plus 7.5 when it opened. It's up to 8.5 now because some money's coming in on Arizona. But when the model tells me the opposite, it's usually just enough to keep me away from betting it. I may not blindly follow the model, but I trust what the model says enough to talk me out of some things that could be leading me in the wrong direction. And that's how I would have even noticed Darius Acuff has value from a points prop perspective until I started digging into this a little further, looking for creative ways to still back what I see as the sky.
Love it.
Love it. All right, let's do one more here. It's the final game of the night on Thursday, and I said Arizona, Arkansas should be the second most entertaining game. This will be the most. This should be a 2-screen setup in households across America for Thursday night, because this is a national title worthy game in the Sweet 16. These are 2 of the top 6 teams, according to KenPom, in America, facing off for a chance at an Elite 8, probably at least 1, maybe 2 rounds earlier than they should. And they are also in the part of the bracket now. They're going to get the winner of Iowa, Nebraska. Whoever wins this game is going to be a sizable favorite to make a Final Four run. And I think all bets are off once you get there. I can't wait to watch this game. I think you have Illinois, who has been the number 1 offense for most of the season. They've fallen to 2nd behind Purdue just recently. And then you've got a Houston program under Kelvin Sampson that's been top 5 in defensive efficiency for 6 straight years. It's going to be a fascinating stylistic contrast between Houston's physicality and their toughness and Illinois' size, their skill, their shooting. And both teams have a freshman backcourt, a freshman superstar in Keaton Wagler and Kingston Flemings that are going to be lottery picks in the NBA one day. It's just as good as it gets from a matchup standpoint. I personally lean to Illinois here, and it's largely number dependent, because this actually opened at Illinois +1, and it's been bet up to Illinois +3.5. Wow. Money coming in on Houston. This game is in Houston. We should also note that. So it's kind of the dreaded home team, home game in the Sweet 16 spot. But up at 3.5 is just too many points for me for 2 teams that are damn near identical in caliber. I think you look at what Illinois does well, this number 2 offense now in the country, they never turn the basketball over. They've got plus playmakers at all 5 spots. They've got a point forward in David Mirkovic and 2 point guards in Wagler and Kylan Boswell. That Houston's pressure defense that sends 2 to the basketball and forces turnovers, I don't know that works against a team that has 5 guys that can all handle and pass the basketball. If they send 2 to any one particular spot, you can expect the right pass to be made. And now you're playing 4-on-3 from plus passers everywhere. I really think there's a world here that the Illinois offense holds up as the best unit in this game. They're going to need a good game from Wagler, withstanding some of the physicality. But remember, this is the kid that had 46 points on the road in Mackey Arena against Purdue earlier this season. I think he's up for the challenge. So I jumped on Illinois at +3.5 the moment that number got up that high. And the Dimers model backs that play. Pretty high probability there, 56%, one of the higher edge plays on the card. So if the Dimers model is right, it warms my heart, Dave. We're going to see Illinois, Purdue, and then either Iowa or Nebraska all covering the spread this weekend, possibly advancing to the Elite 8. And that would get me pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm sure it would, Mr. Big Ten. This is another fun one because you've got the number again moving in favor of the model's probability, and an interesting case because Illinois was a pre-tournament edge to win. They were plus 2,500 at like 3.6%, or like just about fair odds. At odds have barely moved, but you say you mentioned whoever wins this is going to be favored in the Elite 8. So it makes me curious. I want to check that if there's a chance Illinois wins this game and then will be a minus odds favorite in the next. 460 to make the Final Four at 36.9% is ridiculous. And Houston plus 230. You shouldn't bet things knowing one result is going to lose, but you can bet them both. Yeah. And as long as one of them wins the Final Four or the Elite 8, you're making a profit. Obviously, anything can happen. It's the tournament. Upsets happen all the time. Iowa just, pulled out an upset, so we could certainly see something like that. But 36.9% against plus 460 is crazy.
It is. No, it truly is. And, just early projection, I would think if it's Iowa, which is what the Dimers model showed a value on, then I'm thinking both these teams will be probably 6 to 7 point favorites in that game, and you're going to be regretting it. I have an Illinois future already personally. I still think they're probably the one team at this point in the tournament that shows real value to jump on now. It'd be them and Purdue, two teams that coincidentally the model really shows value in. The difference just, of course, Illinois will be favored if they can get through Houston. Purdue likely going to be at least a slight underdog to Arizona in their Elite Eight game. So draw matters. I tell people that all the time. When you're looking to bet futures in the tournament instead of just game by game, you've got to sort of forecast what could the next game look like. And the reality is this Illinois-Houston game, like I said, it has a Final Four feel to it. These are two title-worthy teams that are playing far too early in this tournament. But whoever wins it is going to show real value to make a deeper run beyond next round.
Yeah, great analysis, Greg. I'm looking forward to part 2 on Thursday.
Gotta love it. Yep, we'll be back on the Thursday episode. 4 more games on Friday, and I will give you everything the model projects for it. So thank you, Dave, for giving me that platform. Reminder, if you want to support this show, if you want more College Corner, please throw us a like on this episode, subscribe to get notifications all year long as we continue to roll out the show 2 times a week. We're going to talk a sport that is new to this program for the first time since we started the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. Is baseball season. So let's do a little season preview here. We can talk some MLB win totals, Dave.
Yeah, so you won't find this, housed in the markets and features on site, but this is straight from our data team who they do these, one-off stand-alone simulations for us at our request when they have the data, and we got win totals. I have a bunch of data for this. If anybody's curious, they can reach out to me directly because I have minimum, average minimum, average maximum wins, the, mean wins, everything, highest and lowest and everything that we can dig through to try and find some semblance of an edge ahead of the season. I will pull up the whole grid that I put together, I guess, or the chart rather, and we'll just talk through a couple notable points because we could spend forever on this and we're not going to do that. So I'll look at, I guess, the biggest discrepancies first. Let's do that. So some candidates here, model expects to overperform: Cardinals, Athletics, Nationals. Obviously not good teams, probably a factor in this. I will also point out that the Rockies here have the largest discrepancy to go over, probably because the model sometimes doesn't rate historically terrible teams as bad as they actually are. It can maybe struggle to comprehend how bad a team can actually be. And I will say that they have the lowest minimum total wins out of anyone in here. That was 42.4. So still a very basement season in the cards for the Rockies. And I would not put too much stock into this larger discrepancy here because they're the Rockies. But model does expect some of these poorer teams to overperform. When we looked at the futures real quick, we did see the Athletics with a little bit of an edge in the division. They might be a team worth looking at to make a wild card run. We have them right at 82 total wins, so right at a 500 year, but 6.5 over their sportsbook total. Nationals are going to be, competing at the bottom of the NL East, but we do have them with 4.5 wins over. But see, 70 wins still well under 500 here. Some of the teams that are most expected to go under, I find more interesting. They're good teams for the most part. I guess not by the guys on this banner, but there's a few others that I didn't put in this banner. But the Reds, 6 wins under their total. We have the Yankees projected for 5.9 wins under their total. I think just only a little bit over 500 at 85.6. Returning much of the same roster, but Garrett Cole is going to be out till probably June. Carlos Rodon is going to be out, I think, 4 or 5 weeks. They might have a bit of a hole to dig themselves out of here, even if they make the playoffs and they go on a run. They might not be that far over 500 in a division the model really thinks is going to beat up on each other. The Red Sox also projected for, 5.8 wins under their total, just under 500. The Blue Jays, I believe, are one of the better outlooks overall in terms of total wins, but only 0.2 over their sports book total. Look at the AL East. Also, 88.7 wins for the Blue Jays, 85.6 for the Yankees, 81.7 for the Red Sox. You could probably forget about the Rays here. 81. Look at, that's just a really, really tight division here. Even the Orioles are expected to be one of the top contenders in that division. Bounce back a little bit. Maybe Pete Alonso gives them just what they need. Couple other things I want to look at. The Dodgers. So projected for the most wins at 100 on the dot. Also projected to go under their total of 102.5. So maybe seeing that even an elite team might be a little bit overvalued here, at least in regards to the win total market. And then a couple of, I guess you call them props that I'm not saying these are best bets. I'm just saying these are things that I'm seeing looking at the win totals and then what's on the sports books. You guys decide for yourselves in this regard. But win total props, most team wins over under 104.5. Probably not going to be many teams going over 100. It's very rare multiple teams go over 100 or 105 plus wins here. We have the Dodgers for 100 on the dot. Only the Mets are projected for more than 90. So seems like a pretty solid bet to go under 104.5 wins. That is almost even money to go under on DraftKings. Another prop, teams to record 100 plus losses over under 1.5. White Sox and Rockies leading the way in this regard. However, we do only actually project one team to record 100 plus losses. So you look at sorry, let me just pull them up. Where are they? Where are those Chicago White Sox? Those pesky White Sox. Chicago White Sox 69.2. Oh, it is over 100 or under 100 losses. Sorry, but still flirting with the basement. The Rockies here 66.8, flirting with the basement. Someone's going to be absolutely terrible. They're not. All of these teams are not going to go avoid 100 loss seasons. But if you think only one of them is truly bad, it was like plus 230 for under 1.5 teams to go at least 100 plus losses. And then most wins, I think, is interesting because if it's not the Dodgers, there's a ton of value out there on somebody because every single other team is 12-1 or longer. Our top 5 outside or top projected outside the Dodgers, who are minus 165 to have the most wins. And of course, that makes sense. Their team is absolutely stacked, but a cold streak or an injury could be all it takes to throw them off that track. You get the Mets 17-1. We project them at 94.5 wins. The Blue Jays 15-1 at 88.7 wins, and the Mariners at 17-1. We're also right around the Blue Jays at 87.4 wins. So the top contenders here, all pretty solid play, especially with the odds. If you think anybody can chase down the Dodgers, I would urge you to look at this market because the odds are so long. The Yankees are the shortest besides the Dodgers. They're at plus 1,200. And, according to the model, they're around a top 10, I believe, not sorting by win totals, but projected to go under, and they're 12-1. So somebody out there, if it's not the Dodgers, is going to win this. Obviously, it could be dead heat, and you could split, but a couple interesting candidates in there for sure. If you think somebody overperforms or goes on a run, you might find yourself with an intriguing cash out or hedge opportunity down the line.
I like it. Yeah, I think that's juicy. The fun market when you see huge numbers like 17-1 for some pretty high projections here. And the Dodgers being the Dodgers gives us a chance at that. Yeah, also interesting just in general, I'm tempted to just play Dodgers under. I feel like that might be my preseason play here. And does it sound fun to be fading the Dodgers every single day, knowing I have that in my pocket? No. But I don't know. As far as season-long journeys to embark upon go, I don't hate that when we show pretty significant value there,
Yeah. And then, you can maybe try to pick the spots with the underdogs throughout the season and, correlate that a little bit, try to take advantage.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like in sports in general, not just baseball, sometimes when you have a dynasty like that, they usually do reach a level of complacency at some point. And you have the year where it's like, okay, they're just going through the motions right now. Not saying it's going to come for the Dodgers this year, and they are certainly good enough to win anyway, even if it does. But it's an interesting angle, to say the least. All right, cool. And shout out to my Tigers, by the way. I only saw a -2 for the projection there.
Yeah, not too bad. Huh?
I honestly thought it might be worse given Tarek Skubal's uncertainty long-term with that franchise.
83.5 over 500, buddy.
I'll take it. I'll take anything over 500. All right. That is great. I'm excited. Baseball season is here. You'll see more baseball content from us on this show in the very near future. Lots of fun ways to bet that sport. And we're excited to take you through many of them as next week gets here. Let's go next to our champ of the week.
The pro champ of the week.
You got a history with the champ this week, Dave. Tell us about him.
Yeah, calling him the Halloween hater because his username is only a jack-o'-lantern and the don't sign emoji. But he did once that it was because I believe they hate Halloween. And this is not their first appearance in here either. And they were chirping in the Discord this morning to talk about the player props, as I alluded to earlier in the show. That's not the player props. That's the player props. A whole bunch of slips from the model in the first and second rounds here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 or 14 bets here on this one. Another one here. And they said with complete transparency, placed over 40 props this weekend. Winning slips netted about 13 units of profit. So really nice to see someone using the tools. I will also point out using the tools to bet straights. We love our parlays and stuff. The Dimers model is designed for betting straights and long-term profitability. Nice to see a user taking that advice and running with it. So hats off to you, friend, and hopefully we'll see you again on here. At this rate, probably a good bet.
Thank you, Halloween hater. Congratulations, Halloween hater. I was going to make a trick or treat joke there, but I feel like he deserves better than that. Well done. All right. What else is on Divers this week, Dave? Baseball is back opening day.
Baseball, baby. Yeah, it's back tomorrow, officially on Wednesday. First game, Yankees, Giants. As we all know, we all want is a singular baseball game on Wednesday to start the season and not just a normal opening day. So we got that. Thank you, baseball, for that really exciting one game we'll have tomorrow. But you know what? It'll give us a content opportunity. So I'll play with that tomorrow, find some fun stuff to do. I'm also going to spend a lot of time tomorrow figuring out what to do for baseball on Thursday's show. It's the games I'm sure are starting early. There's got to be some daytime stuff. It's opening day. So we'll have to see what we can do, live in preparation for the night slate. Dare I say a home run round robin? It is the first day of the season. So obviously but come on. I feel like we have to get a little taste of that. So stay tuned. I'll figure it out tomorrow exactly what's on our plate for baseball on opening day. Tournament also resumes on Thursday. We've got Greg's first half of the rounds preview that he so kindly broke down for us today. We'll have a part 2 on Thursday, leading right into the games for Friday. Right, it's Thursday and Friday this round.
Yep, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah. Yep. So, we'll have a little bit more tournament preview. Some more edges, I'm sure, are lurking in the model for those games. Of course, all of the regular daily stuff. Huge NHL slate tonight. I wish we could have done something for it, but we were running out of time. 15 games on everybody but 2 teams in play. So there's going to be a lot of goals, a lot of fun stuff tonight. Definitely jump in the model. I'm sure they're cranking out NHL goal scorer parlays in the Discord. It's where a lot of the action is nightly in there. So a lot of fun stuff on the horizon.
Beautiful time in sports and a beautiful time in the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. Thank you, Dave. Stay tuned for a baseball-filled episode on Thursday. My ears perked up the moment I heard home run round robin. Gamble responsibly in the meantime, everybody. We'll see you then.